Today, mobile DJing and club DJs and the things that you need to consider before going down a particular route. Now, I'm not saying that you can't do both. In fact, I know many DJs that play in nightclubs that also run very successful mobile discos as well. However, for the majority of DJs, generally they will pick and stick to one route. For example, with myself, I started off as a mobile DJ way back when. I transitioned across to being a club DJ, and now I don't really do sort of private parties, private functions. In fact, the thought of doing a mobile disco scares the life out of me just because it's completely out of my comfort zone. Without further ado though, let's get into it. First and foremost, let's dispel a little bit of a myth. Now, when I speak to a few club DJs, sometimes they look down on the mobile DJ community. Now, let me just say, I think number one, that is absolutely awful. I think mobile DJs have much greater skill sets than some of the people playing in nightclubs, because the events that you are playing for, you have to cater for a far wider range of people. Often they're really important events. Someone's wedding, it's the most important day of their life, or like a milestone birthday, for example. And to be quite honest, if you are a mobile DJ with a really good reputation, you're really well established, a great equipment setup, it can often be far more lucrative financially than playing in the high street bars and clubs. Now that's out the way, let's talk about some of these key considerations then. And the first one is equipment. This is probably the biggest difference between the two types of DJing. Club DJing then, you're going to need a very minimal setup, if anything at all. In fact, the best clubs, even on the high street, will have all of the equipment ready to go. So you literally just need to turn up with your music, whether that be on a laptop or a USB stick, your headphones, maybe a microphone. You can literally plug in and play, and you're ready to go within 10 to 15 minutes. Now, the reason why you need such little equipment is because the speakers are installed, the lights are installed, and of course there is a DJ booth in the corner of that club or a stage or something where the decks are. Now, here in the UK especially, I know that CDJs, mixers, etc., they're not very well maintained in some venues. In fact, in some venues they don't really supply CDJs and a mixer. So if you are going to need equipment, it's most likely to be CDJs and a mixer, or a controller, and at worst the leads to plug that into the sound system or the amplifier, something like that. But apart from that, you can get away with the absolute bare minimum. So in terms of the initial outlay, the cost to you to get started as a bar or club DJ, it's actually pretty minimal. Of course, you're going to need headphones, you're going to need music, but apart from that, that is it. Compare that to the mobile DJ, and there is a lot more equipment to consider here. And of course, attached to that is cost. So you've got to, of course, have the CDJs, mixer or controller first and foremost, and your laptop or USB sticks with all your music on, but you're actually going to need the DJ booth to put that in. You're also going to need the speakers, you're going to need the lights. Think of all the cables that you need to connect all of that together, all of the power, extension leads, all of that. And plus as well, for lighting, speakers, the stands to put them on, because lighting doesn't look very good on the floor. On top of that, the equipment is your own, so they need to be tested for electrical safety. And on top of that, you're going to need some kind of insurance, so public liability insurance. And in fact, many mobile venues or like wedding venues, hotels, etc., will not let you set up and play unless you can provide evidence of insurance for your equipment. So that public liability insurance and also the electrical safety test. Now, the reason why you need public liability insurance is because number one, that equipment is your own, but number two, it just safeguards yourself against any accidents. So say, for example, if you have a guest that trips over one of your speaker stands, you're effectively liable for that. So it's really important that you are covered. Then there's the other costs as well. So you need to consider, of course, transporting all of that equipment to the venue. So you're going to potentially need a bigger car or a van. Also as well, where are you going to store that on the other side? Have you got the room to store all this equipment at home? Have you got a garage, or are you going to have to hire a storage unit? Now, if you like the sound of mobile DJing, you think that is quite appealing, check out DJ Funky Mike and also Real Life DJ. They have got great YouTube channels. Links down below in the descriptions. They've got loads of gig logs on both of their channels, and so you can get a bit of an insight into what it's like behind the scenes in terms of setting up a mobile disco. Back to today. The next consideration is music. Now, first and foremost, this really does depend on the type of DJ that you are. If you are a nightclub DJ, you might be a very specialist DJ playing within nightclubs. And if you are one of those DJs, then you can probably get away with just having a folder of, say, house music that you take to your events and you just play for the night. However, if you want to be what I'd call a mainstream high street nightclub DJ playing in bars and clubs with the dance floor in, you're going to need a much wider selection to cater to all of the different customers that you might come across. So it could be a selection of house, current chart stuff, it could be R&B, it could be some more cheesy older stuff. It will also depend on the music policy of the venue or the room within the venue that you're playing. When it comes to mobile discos and being a mobile DJ, I would say you need the widest selection possible, because when you are DJing at a wedding, when you're DJing at a birthday party, the age range of your client base is going to be absolutely massive. Say for example it's a 21st birthday party, you might have the person whose birthday it is and all of their mates who are around 18 to 21, but you might also have family there who are a little bit older, grandparents, etc. So you are going to need a massive selection of music, and also you're going to need to be able to cater to your clients' specific needs. So they might supply you with a playlist, which is really useful because then you can go ahead in advance and download some of their tracks that they want. But in order to safeguard yourself on the night, you're going to need a lot of music to cover all bases. The last consideration we're talking about tonight is time. Regardless of whatever DJ you are or whatever type of DJing you're doing, DJs work unsociable hours. You are going to have to miss social nights out because most people party on a Friday and Saturday night in 90% of cases. Of course, there are clubs that open midweek, there are weddings and events that take place midweek, but more often than not, you are going to be working unsociable hours at night and at the times when most people are off work. For the nightclub DJ, so say the set's 5 hours, maybe an hour to and from traveling to the venue, give or take. You might be more local, you might be further away, and the setup time, 8 hours tops, okay, in a nightclub, and that might go from say 9 p.m. in the evening till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, which is pretty antisocial. The mobile DJ, however, needs to factor in a considerable more amount of time in order to do the same amount of DJing, because not only is there travel to and from the venue, but there's also an hour to say 2 hours setup time. Then you're delivering a set, which could be anywhere between 3 and 5 hours. Then there's up to 2 hours pack down time, and then of course there is the travel home. And then depending on where you store your equipment, there's the offload at the other end. That is a considerable more amount of time. However, it is likely that you probably will not be working as late as the nightclub DJ, because say if a nightclub shuts at 4 a.m. in the morning, a mobile disco might finish by midnight. But by the time you pack down, pack up your van, get home and unload, you might still find yourself into the early hours before you actually get to sleep. The additional piece with the mobile DJ, however, and this is what I would do personally, is spending time with clients. And this is where I think mobile discos and mobile DJing have to spend a lot more time, because you're going to have that initial client call to find out a little bit more about them, what they want on the day, potentially meeting with them, having a walk around the venue, discussing playlists, etc. If you want to be that high-end mobile DJ, you do need to do all of those things to ensure client satisfaction. So there we have it, guys. 3 things that you will need to consider before deciding which route of DJing that you want to go down, especially important if you are just starting out. Please do subscribe to the channel if you found this video useful. Please hit the thumbs up button if you haven't done so already. It does wonders to push this video out to more people, and I will see you in the next one.